Here's the big question. Can the world's most dominant enterprise CRM system successfully serve small businesses? That's what I'm here to find out. For those unfamiliar with Salesforce, you are looking at the most popular CRM system on the planet. They've held an absolute dominant position in the US market and remain the global leader worldwide. Here's how established they are. Their stock ticker symbol is simply CRM. That's how long these guys have been in the business. Now, the challenge Salesforce has been grappling with for years, taking their powerful enterprise-grade platform and making it accessible to smaller companies. So the million-dollar question is, have they actually pulled this off with Starter Suite? That's exactly what I'm going to answer in this review, but I won't stop there. I'm going to cover everything you need to know to make an informed decision about this product. I'll walk you through who this product was really built for, examine the user interface and implementation process, and explore the key features that set Salesforce apart. I'll dive into the support ecosystem, do a technical review for those of you who are slightly more tech-savvy, and of course, break down the true cost of ownership, not just the sticker price, but what it actually takes to get this system up and running. Now, finally, I'll give you my honest take on whether I would actually want to use the CRM system myself. If you're new to my channel, I'm Jeff Tiley and I'm CRM consultant. Today, I'm taking you through a comprehensive review of Salesforce Starter Suite, examining whether a platform built for Fortune 500 companies can truly work for startups and small businesses like mine. So let's begin. But first, as usual, a bit of context about the company itself. Think of Salesforce as McDonald's of business software. They've been around seemingly forever, everyone knows them, and they have pretty much defined what CRM means. Founded in 1999 by Mark Benioff, Salesforce pioneered something revolutionary. Business software you could access through a web browser instead of installing on your computer. I know this might sound obvious now, but back then that was a bit of radical. Most companies were still buying software in boxes and installing it on servers in their basements. Benioff and in many parts his original team are still running the show today, which is unusual in Silicon Valley where leadership changes happen constantly. This consistency has advantages. They really understand their market and have built deep relationships with big companies, but also means they think like a company that's been successful for 25 years in a row. Salesforce makes most of their money from large enterprises, companies with thousands of employees who pay hundreds of dollars per users per month. These customers have dedicated IT teams, complex needs, and big budgets. But what about small businesses? They are a very different animal, and frankly, not where Salesforce has historically made their money. Which brings me to an important question. Who is Salesforce Starter Suite is for? Salesforce SaaS Starter Suite is for quote-unquote small businesses and startups. But that's marketing speak. I spent time testing their purchase process and found something interesting. You can buy up to 66 licenses without talking to a salesperson. That number is not random. It's where Salesforce draws the line between small business and requires our attention. This suggests they're thinking about companies with roughly 20 to 50 employees who need to track customers, manage sales, and handle basic customer service. But there is a catch. The product assumes you will operate exactly like a miniature version of a big company. Now, one of the examples which I'm looking at to understand who the system is for is the system limits. In Salesforce, it's 20,000 records per data type, or in simple words, customers, deals, and support cases. You can have 20,000 of each of those. So for context, that's plenty for most small businesses, but it reveals their mindset. They expect you to stay small or eventually graduate to their expensive plans. After testing the platform extensively, I strongly suspect Starter Suite serves a dual purpose. Yes, it's designed for small businesses, but it's also designated to get you comfortable with Salesforce's way of doing things. Think of it as CRM training wheels, complex enough to prepare you for their enterprise product, but limited enough to ensure you will eventually need an upgrade. It's my speculation, but it seems that the ideal Starter Suite customer appears to be a growing service business with structured sales process, some customer support needs, and plans to scale significantly. If you're looking for a simple software that just works out of the box, or if you need highly customized solutions despite your small business size, this product occupies an awkward middle ground that may not serve you well. Which brings me to probably the most important part of any software, user interface. This video was brought to you thanks to Monthly. Monthly is a digital consulting company. We help our customers implement CRM systems and digitalize their business. We're a small, creative, and very dedicated team of digital professionals. You know the game. Link in description below. The first thing you'll notice is how everything is organized. Salesforce uses a tab-based system on the left side where you will find sections like Contacts, Sales, and Service. Click on any of those tabs and you will see all the related objects: your contacts, accounts, opportunities, and cases. It's like having separate mini application within one larger system. Now, this consistency is both brilliant and frustrating. Every section looks remarkably similar. Your account page looks just like your contacts page, which looks just like your deals page, or in Salesforce ecosystem, opportunity. From a learning perspective, this is actually fantastic. Once you figure out how one section works, you can navigate anywhere in the system. But sometimes uniformity isn't what you want. Take Pipedrive, for example. When you open deals in Pipedrive, you immediately see a visual Kanban board showing you entire sales pipeline. It's intuitive and gives you instant insight. Salesforce can absolutely do this too, but you need to know the feature exists, find the right settings, and configure it yourself. After spending considerable time in the interface, and spoiler alert, I use it myself, I describe it as functionally comprehensive but visually dated. Everything works as intended, but it feels like it was designed by database administrators rather than user experience professionals. You can definitely find what you need, but it requires more clicks and mental overhead than most modern alternatives. The interface really reflects Salesforce's enterprise DNA. It's built for power users who will invest time in customization rather than casual users who want immediate productivity. Which brings me to an important topic: ease of implementation. And I need to be completely honest with you about this. Implementing Salesforce Starter Suite is significantly more complex than it should be for a small business product. Salesforce has clearly tried to simplify things. They've added streamlined menus, quick options for renaming deal stages, and simplified user management. But they made a critical mistake. They didn't remove the advanced functionality that makes the whole platform overwhelming. What you end up with is this confusing hybrid where you have simplified setup wizards sitting right next to the complex administrative panels from classic Salesforce. Let me give you a specific example that really illustrates this problem. In most modern CRMs, creating a new sales pipeline involves clicking Create Pipeline, naming your stages, and you're basically done. Takes maybe a couple of minutes. In Salesforce Starter Suite, you need to navigate to advanced settings, create something called a sales process, then configure record types, modify page layouts, and adjust permissions. Each step requires understanding Salesforce's underlying architecture, and you cannot easily test your changes because Salesforce Starter Suite doesn't let you log in as a different user to verify everything works correctly. It's a feature from Enterprise, and it's not available in Starter Suite. Here's another example. I tried setting up their commerce functionality, which they claim you can do in 7 simple steps. I couldn't complete the process. Random errors kept appearing, the actual workflow didn't match their documentation, and getting it resolved required contacting support. Data migration presented similar challenges. When I was preparing test data for this review, I discovered that the standard import tool doesn't support linking opportunities to accounts and contacts, which are fundamental relationships you would expect any CRM to handle seamlessly. I had to use an unofficial third-party tool called Salesforce Inspector Reloaded and manual workarounds just to accomplish basic data imports. But come on, I'm Salesforce consultant. I know how to do these things. I am specifically trained for this kind of work. The real irony is that Salesforce's complexity enables incredible flexibility on their higher tier plans. But Starter Suite gives you all the implementation headaches without most of the customization benefits that would justify dealing with that complexity, which is a good time to briefly go through some of their core functionality. Now, Salesforce Starter Suite brings together sales, service marketing, and commerce capabilities in one integrated platform, which is genuinely impressive for a product at a given price point. The email and calendar integration works exactly as you'd expect from a major platform. The system syncs seamlessly with major email providers and calendar applications, creating a unified view of your customer interactions. There is even a thoughtful click-to-call feature that triggers phone calls through your computer's default calling application. It's not full VoIP functionality, but it's remarkably convenient when you're working from your desktop and need to quickly connect with prospects or customers. Task management provides solid functionality that integrates beautifully with your customer data. While it may not be the most intuitive standalone task manager, the fact that your tasks are automatically connected to specific accounts, contacts, and deals creates context that generic productivity tools simply can't match. You can see exactly what needs to be done for each customer relationship without switching between different apps. The email marketing functionality represents one of the Salesforce's attempts to provide comprehensive business tools under one roof. The system includes read receipts, scheduling capabilities, and basic segmentation features that work reliably for straightforward campaigns. I actually use this feature in my own company, though I've discovered some workflow limitations that led me to eventually integrate with MailChimp, so basically switch to another app. Their landing page and form capabilities allow you to create customer-facing web pages directly within the platform. This means you can build simple lead capture pages or product information sites without maintaining separate web development tools. The integration between pages and your customer database happens automatically, which eliminates the data synchronization challenges that usually plague multi-tool setups. Now, knowledge management for customer support provides a centralized repository for frequently asked questions, troubleshooting guides, and internal documentation. Support agents can quickly find relevant information during customer interactions, while system tracks which knowledge articles are most useful for continuous improvement. The commerce functionality represents Salesforce's newest addition to Starter Suite. You can create a simple e-commerce experiences, generate payment links, and process transactions directly through the platform. For service businesses or companies with straightforward product catalogs, this eliminates the need for separate e-commerce platforms while maintaining complete visibility into the customer journey from initial interest through final purchase. Now, what makes all these features particularly valuable is their integration. Customer service cases can be linked to sales opportunities. Marketing campaigns could be linked directly to lead generation. Commerce transactions feed into customer relationship data. This unified approach means you're building a comprehensive understanding of each customer relationship rather than managing fragmented information across multiple systems, which is a great time to cover Salesforce's mobile app. The Salesforce mobile app reveals some interesting design choices that reflect the broader challenge of bringing enterprise-grade functionality to mobile devices. I tested the app thoroughly on both Android and iOS, and while it's functional, the experience feels more like a mobile adaptation of the desktop interface rather than a purpose-built mobile solution designed specifically for field sales or remote work scenarios. Let me walk you through what this looks like in practice. When you initiate a phone call through the app, it seamlessly hands off to your phone's native dialer, which works perfectly fine. However, when you finish the call and return to Salesforce, the system doesn't automatically prompt you to log that interaction. You'll need to manually navigate back and create a call record yourself. For busy sales professionals working in the field, this extra step can become a barrier to consistent data entry. Now, this interface approach presents some usability trade-offs. Reports and dashboards essentially display the same desktop content scaled down for mobile screens, which means you will often find yourself scrolling both horizontally and vertically through dense information. The system does allow you to create custom mobile dashboards optimized for smaller screens, but this requires, again, diving into settings and building those views yourself rather than having them available out of the box by default. There is definitely a bright spot worth mentioning. The contact integration works exceptionally well. The app syncs seamlessly with your phone's contact list and email applications, making customer information readily accessible without needing to switch between multiple apps. Now, this integration actually highlights an interesting design question. Given how well the contact sync works with your phone's native tools, the value proposition for using a separate mobile app becomes less clear for basic customer relationship management. The mobile app experience really illustrates the fundamental design challenge the Starter Suite faces throughout the platform, balancing enterprise-level capabilities with the simplicity that small business users typically prefer. The app provides impressive functionality and flexibility, but accessing that power often requires more technical setup and navigation than mobile users might expect from consumer-grade apps. For teams that need comprehensive CRM access while traveling or working remotely, the app delivers the functionality you need, so basically does the job. The question becomes whether the learning curve and setup requirements align with how your team actually works in mobile environments, which in turn is the right time to talk about reports and analytics. And this is where Salesforce excels. It does that exceptionally well, even in Starter Suite. I was genuinely impressed by their updated reporting interface. It closely resembles their premium CRM analytics tool. I couldn't definitely determine whether it's actually the same engine running under the hood, but regardless, the visual improvement over classic Salesforce reporting is absolutely dramatic. What really works well is that the system includes a number of pre-built reports organized by category like sales, service, and marketing. You're not starting with a completely blank slate, which provides immediate value and gives you inspiration for creating custom reports. You can even download additional report templates from AppExchange, which is Salesforce's app marketplace. From a technical standpoint, creating custom report is surprisingly straightforward and intuitive with drag and drop interface. You can export data to Excel, build dashboards that combine multiple reports, and create various visualizations, including gauges, charts, and summary metrics. The dashboard functionality deserves special mention. Instead of jumping between individual reports all the time, you can consolidate your key metrics into a single screen. The system supports different visualization types, though I'd recommend avoiding table views except for specific use cases like displaying your top accounts. When I compare this to other CRMs in the small business market, Salesforce's reporting capabilities are genuinely superior to anyone I know. The depth of data you can access and analyze surpasses most alternatives by a really significant margin. Reporting and analytics really showcase what Salesforce does best, providing enterprise-level capabilities in a more accessible package. It's genuinely one of the areas where Salesforce Starter Suite delivers on its promise of bringing powerful functionality to smaller businesses. Which brings us to the next chapter of this review, product support. And let me start with documentation. When it comes to documentation, Salesforce has built something truly exceptional that sets the standard for the entire industry. Everything is documented, period. And I mean everything. I've never encountered documentation this comprehensive. Whether you are trying to understand basic navigation or dive into complex API integrations, there's detailed guides for everything. What makes this even more remarkable is how they have organized this information. The documentation isn't just thorough, it's actually usable. They've created clear pathways for different user types, from complete beginners to advanced administrators. You can find step-by-step tutorials, video guides, and detailed reference materials all in one place. I have seen cases where developers working on competing platforms go to Salesforce documentation to understand how certain features should work, then implement similar functionality in their own systems. That's not an exaggeration. I've witnessed this multiple times. When your documentation becomes the industry reference point, you know you've done something right. But Salesforce takes this even further with something called Trailhead, which is essentially a free university for business software. This isn't just product training, it's comprehensive education about sales processes, customer service best practices, and business management fundamentals. You can literally learn how to run a sales organization through their sales content. Like, it's totally free. As you complete different learning modules, you will earn badges that have actual value in the job market. They even offer certifications like the Sales Rep certification that validates your skills as an end user, not just as a technical administrator. For small business owners who want to understand both software and the business process it supports, this represents an incredible value, which naturally brings me to technical documentation. The technical documentation deserves its own discussion because it operates at a completely different level of sophistication. Every API endpoint, every configuration option, every integration possibility is meticulously documented with code examples, use cases, and troubleshooting guides. For a platform as complex as Salesforce, this level of technical detail is absolutely essential, though some still ignore that, like Microsoft Dynamics, for example. What impresses me most is how they have made this technical information accessible to different skill levels. Whether you are a seasoned developer building custom integration or business owner trying to understand what's possible, you can find information presented at the appropriate technical depth. The developer community has built an entire ecosystem around these technical resources. When you combine comprehensive documentation with active community forums and extensive third-party resources, you create an environment where almost any technical challenge has been solved by someone before. This technical foundation becomes crucial when you start thinking about scaling your business or integrating with other systems. Even though Starter Suite has limitations, the underlying platform documentation gives you a roadmap for what becomes possible as you grow, which I think is a great time to talk about community. Salesforce has cultivated one of the most, if not the most active and helpful business software communities in the world. The official partner forum provides access to insider information, internal documents, and implementation guides you simply can't find anywhere else. When you're working on complex implementations, this kind of institutional knowledge becomes invaluable. But the community extends far beyond official channels. Take Salesforce Band, for example. It's essentially a daily news publication covering everything happening in Salesforce ecosystem. They publish detailed analysis, feature guides, and industry insights that rival anything you would find in traditional business publications. For professionals looking to deepen their expertise, resources like Focus on Force provide comprehensive certification preparation with detailed explanations for every concept. I've actually used their materials personally when pursuing various certifications, and quality rivals formal university coursework, to be frank. Now, the community aspect becomes particularly valuable for small businesses because you are essentially getting access to collective knowledge from enterprises that have solved similar challenges at a much larger scale. Someone probably have already faced your exact implementation challenge before and documented the solution. This community strength also creates opportunities for finding specialized help when you need it. The ecosystem includes consultants who focus on specific industries, particular features, or unique use cases. When you need expertise that goes beyond general CRM knowledge, this community network becomes a significant competitive advantage, which brings me to Salesforce's customer support. Salesforce customer support operates with a philosophy that you will always get an answer, and that answer will typically be substantive and helpful. When you contact support, you're not, most of the time, getting generic responses or links to the documentation you could have found yourself. They will either provide specific guidance tailored to your situation or connect you with a specialist who can walk you through the problem in real time. The screen sharing support sessions deserve special mention, even though they use WebEx, which frankly works terribly and glitches constantly. Nevertheless, despite the technological hiccups, having someone actually look at your specific configuration and help solve problems in real time is incredibly valuable for complex issues. They offer various premium support tiers with features like 24/7 phone support, but even the standard support included with Starter Suite provides a solid responsiveness and technical competence. However, support isn't perfect, particularly when dealing with known platform bugs. Large, complex software platforms inevitably have issues, and sometimes you will get workaround solutions rather than actual fixes. They might provide an alternative approach to accomplish your goal, but the underlying problem will remain unresolved. One pattern that's genuinely frustrating is how simple feature requests can languish for years. There is a request for HTML email signature sitting in their forum since 2008. This kind of basic usability improvements get overshadowed by flashier developments like their recent AI initiative. This reflects a broader challenge with publicly traded companies. They often prioritize features that generate headlines over foundational improvements that would benefit daily users. Right now, they are pushing Agentforce and other AI capabilities while fundamental platform improvements remain unaddressed. But despite these limitations, you won't be left stranded when you encounter problems. The combination of comprehensive documentation, active community, and responsive support creates a safety net that's particularly valuable when you are implementing business-critical systems, which brings me to technical review part of this video. And let's start with out-of-the-box integrations. When it comes to integrations, Salesforce operates on a completely different level than virtually any other business software I have encountered. I decided to test this during my review preparation by diving into Make.com, where I have numerous automation scenarios already configured. I was genuinely curious to see how comprehensive their Salesforce integration actually was. What I found was probably the most complete integration I ever seen for any CRM system. This makes perfect sense when you consider that Salesforce is the oldest major CRM platform still actively developed. They have decades to build relationships with other software providers, and it shows. Whether you're looking at accounting systems, marketing tools, e-commerce platforms, or specialized industry software, there's likely a robust integration waiting for you. What really impressed me was the sophistication of these connections. In the Make.com, I found a record triggers. You can essentially subscribe to changes in your Salesforce data and automatically trigger actions in other systems when those changes occur in Salesforce. Here's an example which I actually use. When a contact information changes in Salesforce, I have to automatically update the same contact in Zoho Invoice through Make.com. This kind of omnidirectional event-driven integration eliminates the manual data maintenance that usually drives small owners crazy when you have this small misalignments. Now, Zapier offers similar capabilities, though I haven't fully explored whether their API coverage is as comprehensive as Make.com's implementation. But even conservative estimates suggest that thousands of different integration scenarios are possible right out of the box. Compare this to something like Begin CRM, which I reviewed previously and found to have virtually no meaningful integration options. With Salesforce, integration abundance becomes a genuine competitive advantage, especially as your business grows and you need to connect multiple systems together. Which brings me to data model and scalability of Salesforce. I'll be honest, when I decided to examine Salesforce Starter Suite data model for this review, I was completely unprepared for what I discovered. The underlying data structure is absolutely massive. I've never actually needed to dive into Starter Suite's data architecture before because my clients typically operate on a higher tier plans, but the comprehensiveness genuinely surprised and shocked me at the same time. The system tracks relationships and maintains data connections that most small businesses would never think to utilize. This creates an interesting paradox. On one hand, I can imagine any reasonable small business owner wanting to study this data model complexity. It's genuinely overwhelming if you are just trying to track customers and sales. But on the other hand, this sophisticated foundation means the system can theoretically support whatever your business becomes. Regardless of how your business evolves, how complex your process becomes, or what kind of technological ecosystem you eventually build, Salesforce can probably accommodate it. You will likely need to upgrade to a different plan, but the underlying platform won't become the limitation. However, there is always a but, right? For Starter Suite specifically, this robust data model is probably more of a drawback than an advantage, in my opinion. The complexity adds overhead without delivering proportional value to small businesses. But from a long-term perspective, if you are serious about growth and eventual digital transformation, having this foundation in place represents significant strategic value. I don't have an established opinion about this complexity, though I tend to lean towards thinking this complexity is unjustified, given limitations I'll discuss later, which is the time to talk about security and compliance of Starter Suite. Salesforce approaches security with the thoroughness you would expect from a platform serving Fortune 500 companies, though this creates both benefits and challenges for smaller organizations. The system supports single sign-on and offers comprehensive permission management capabilities, but the complexity becomes a double-edged sword. The permission system is so sophisticated that even experienced administrators can easily make mistakes that compromise security. I've had a case where I witnessed a situation where administrator accidentally granted view all data permission to low-level users, resulting in everyone seeing everything for extended period of time. The administrator simply didn't understand what that particular checkbox meant, and the consequences weren't immediately obvious for him. When configured properly, security is absolutely enterprise level, but proper configuration requires understanding Salesforce's permission architecture, which isn't trivial for small businesses and their owners without dedicated IT resources. Now, GDPR compliance and similar regulatory requirements introduce additional complexity through something called individual object. This is genuinely technical, so bear with me for a moment. Salesforce automatically creates individual records in their data cloud, whether you add leads, contacts, or person accounts. The system uses matching rules to identify when multiple records represent the same person and consolidates their preferences across your entire database. This creates powerful compliance automation. When someone opts out of communications, that preference automatically applies everywhere that person appears in your system. But there is a significant limitation in Starter Suite. You cannot easily automate opt-in processes or opt-out processes. If someone subscribes to your newsletter or explicitly consents to marketing communications, there is no straightforward way to update their individual record to reflect that consent. You have to go and do that manually, like I do right now. I discovered this limitation in my own company and contacted support about it. They confirmed that this functionality isn't available on Starter Suite, though this conversation happened a couple of months ago, and I haven't retested this for this review. That's just an illustration of the limitations of Starter Suite. This represents another example of Starter Suite's awkward positioning. You get the complexity of enterprise compliance requirements without access to the automation tools that make managing those requirements practical for small companies. Which brings me to the discussion about Salesforce product quality. Evaluating Starter Suite's overall quality requires separating what Salesforce does well from what small businesses actually need. From a pure functionality perspective, everything that's implemented generally works as designed. You won't encounter the obvious bugs or broken features that plague some smaller CRM providers. The platform is stable, reliable, and handles data integrity fairly well. But product quality for small businesses isn't just about functional reliability. It's about thoughtful design that anticipates how real users will interact with the system. And this is where Starter Suite reveals its fundamental design flaws. The interface combines simplified setup wizards with complex administrative panels from classic Salesforce. You will find streamlined options for common tasks sitting right next to advanced configuration screens that require deep platform knowledge. This hybrid approach satisfies neither user types efficiently. Power users get frustrated by artificial limitations, while casual users get overwhelmed by unnecessarily complex options scattered through the interface. The visual design also feels inconsistent, with different interface generations coexisting in the same system. Some screens use modern, intuitive layouts, while others clearly date back to earlier Salesforce eras. Navigation often requires more clicks than necessary, and common workflows aren't optimized. But perhaps most problematically, many features feel partially implemented. The commerce functionality that supposedly works in 7 simple steps generated random errors during my testing. Knowledge management appears in feature lists, but requires significant configuration to become functional, and while preparing this video, I couldn't even configure it. After researching topic, I understood that I have to go through the customer support to unlock what should be included in the plan by default. Now, email marketing exists, but lacks basic usability features like template cloning, for example. For context, I'm Salesforce certified professional, and I understand the platform's logic and can usually work around its quirks efficiently. Even with this expertise, I regularly encounter friction points that would genuinely frustrate small business owners trying to accomplish basic tasks. The irony is that this same complexity enables incredible flexibility on a higher tier Salesforce plans. Enterprise customers can configure virtually any business process imaginable, but Starter Suite gives you much of the complexity without access to the customization capabilities that would justify dealing with that kind of complexity. From small business perspective, the product quality feels average at best, and sometimes below average when compared to purpose-built alternatives. Everything technically works, but the user experience suggests a platform designed by technical architects rather than small business advocates. This doesn't make Starter Suite inherently bad software. It's just software that's awkwardly positioned between enterprise capabilities and small business needs, resulting in a product that doesn't excel in either direction. Which brings me to a very important part of this review: costs of Salesforce. Let's start with plans. Salesforce Starter Suite carries a $25 monthly price tag per user, whether you're paying in dollars or euros, depending on your location. On paper, this seems remarkably competitive for what appears to be a feature-rich platform. When you look at the official feature list, it's genuinely impressive. You're getting sales automation, customer service tools, basic marketing capabilities, and even commerce functionality, all bundled together. For many small business CRM alternatives, you would pay separately for each of these modules or find them missing entirely. The pricing strategy reflects Salesforce's broader market approach. Use an attractive entry point to introduce small business to their ecosystem, then guide them towards higher value plans as they grow and need additional capabilities. But here's what the pricing page doesn't tell you. Starter Suite operates with significant limitations that aren't immediately obvious. You get 5 automation workflow maximum when I estimate a modern business using Starter Suite with all of its complexity will realistically need at least 50. Custom objects, which represent Salesforce's core strength for business customizations, aren't available at all. These constraints become more problematic when you consider that Salesforce's real competitive advantage has always been configurability. The ability to model your unique business process, create custom data structures, and automate complex workflows. That's what justifies choosing Salesforce over simpler alternatives. Starter Suite gives you a taste of this power without access to the tools that would make it transformative for your business. And frankly, this is the biggest disappointment I've had in a long time. Now, let's talk about cost of ownership. The real story with Salesforce isn't the monthly subscription cost. It's everything else you will need to invest to make the system actually work for your business. Okay, let me share something from my own experience. When I set up Starter Suite for my consulting company, the process was relatively quick because I already know Salesforce. I understand platform's logic, know where to find obscure settings, and can troubleshoot problems that would stump most users. But the critical question is, what if you don't have that expertise? Implementation time becomes your biggest hidden cost. While I can configure basic workflows in minutes, a small business owner encountering Salesforce for the first time could easily spend weeks just trying to set up fundamental processes like lead management or customer service workflows. This isn't speculation. I've watched it happen with clients who tried to implement Salesforce without professional help. They'd spend enormous amounts of time reading documentation, watching tutorials, and struggling with configurational challenges that seem simple in hindsight but require platform-specific knowledge to solve efficiently. Data migration represents another significant cost factor. Most businesses have existing customer data in spreadsheets, previous CRM systems, or accounting software. Getting that information into Salesforce cleanly requires understanding their data model, import limitations, and relationship structures. But then there is ongoing maintenance burden. Salesforce requires active administration to remain useful. User permissions need management. Reports require regular updates, though management can learn them. And new features need configuration. Enterprise customers have dedicated Salesforce administrators, but small businesses typically don't budget for this ongoing technical overhead. The integration story amplifies these costs. While Salesforce offers incredible integration possibilities, actually implementing them often requires tools like May.com or Zapier, adding monthly subscription costs and configuration complexity. I personally moved our email marketing to MailChimp because Starter Suite built-in tools proved too cumbersome for regular use. Now I pay for both MailChimp and the integration platform that keeps them synchronized, expenses that weren't obvious when evaluating the initial Salesforce pricing. Training represents another hidden investment. After successful implementation, your team needs to learn not just how to use the system, but how to use it effectively. Salesforce's learning curve is steeper than most alternatives, and inefficient usage patterns can persist for months without proper guidance. The opportunity cost question becomes crucial for small businesses. Every hour spent wrestling with Salesforce configuration is an hour not spent on revenue-generating activities. When you're running a lean operation, this time investment can genuinely impact your business performance. Compare this to purpose-built small business CRMs where you can often have a functional system running within hours. With minimal ongoing maintenance requirements, the monthly cost might be similar, but the total ownership experience is dramatically different. Now, there is a compelling argument for accepting these higher ownership costs if you are serious about scaling your business. Salesforce's underlying platform can genuinely grow with you in a ways that simpler alternatives cannot. The data model, integration capabilities, and advanced features that seem unnecessary today might become essential as your business evolves. But that's a strategic bet, not a tactical decision. You are essentially paying for a future capabilities while accepting current complexity, which makes sense only if you have a clear growth trajectory that will eventually justify the investment. For businesses that need straightforward customer management without complex automation or expensive customization, Starter Suite total cost of ownership often exceeds its value proposition. The monthly subscription represents only a fraction of what you will actually invest to make the system work effectively. However, if you're building a business that will eventually need sophisticated automation, complex reporting, or extensive integrations, then accepting higher upfront costs might be strategically sound. You're essentially investing in a platform that won't become a limitation as you scale. The pricing question ultimately depends on whether you use Salesforce as a tool for your current needs or as infrastructure for your future business. Those are very different value propositions with very different cost justifications, which brings me to my last point in this review. Would I want to use the system myself? This question puts me in an interesting position because I actually do use Salesforce Starter Suite for my own consulting business, and it works really well for us. But before you take that as an endorsement, let me explain why this might not be as meaningful as it sounds. Now, I set up our entire system myself, leveraging 15 years of Salesforce experience, and I know exactly where every obscure setting lives, understand the platform's quirks intimately, and can work around limitations that would genuinely frustrate most users. When something doesn't work the way I expect, I have the knowledge to find alternative approach or build a workaround. For my specific situation, Starter Suite delivers everything we need. I've built some elegant automations using Make.com that handle lead routing and client communications. My reporting gives me clear visibility into our business's performance. The system integrates seamlessly with our other tools because I understand exactly how to configure those connections. But here's the thing. If I didn't have this deep platform knowledge, would I still choose Salesforce for a small business? That's where my answer becomes much more complicated. The reality is that every configuration task that takes me a few minutes could easily take a new user hours or even days to figure out. Features that seem almost there become genuine sources of frustration when you don't know how to complete the setups. The learning curve extends far beyond normal software adoption into understanding enterprise-grade platform architecture. Most small business owners I work with need tools that solve problems immediately without requiring them to become software experts. They want to spend their time on sales, customer service, and business development, not learning complex administrative procedures. For these businesses, paying $25 monthly for software that requires significant implementation investment rarely makes financial sense. They typically be better served by purpose-built small business tools that deliver immediate productivity gains, even if they're more expensive in the subscription price. But there is an important exception to consider. If you are building a business with serious growth ambitions and you genuinely plan to eventually need sophisticated automation, extensive integrations, or complex reporting capabilities, then accepting Starter Suite's initial complexity might actually be strategically smart. You are essentially making an infrastructure investment that won't limit your future growth. The underlying data model can support virtually any business process you might eventually need. The integration ecosystem can connect any combination of business tools you might adopt. The reporting capabilities can handle enterprise-level analysis requirements that simple CRMs simply can't match. As I have already said, this becomes a strategic bet on your business trajectory. Are you building something that will eventually justify enterprise-grade complexity, or do you just need practical tools for current operations? So my honest recommendation comes down to this. I'd only suggest Starter Suite if you meet some very specific criteria. You need either internal technical expertise or budget for professional implementation. You should be genuinely committed to the Salesforce ecosystem for the long term, and you need to anticipate requiring advanced capabilities as you scale your business. For everyone else, the total cost of ownership, including time investment, learning curve, and implementation complexity, typically exceeds the value you will actually receive. Would I personally use this system? Absolutely yes, because I can make it work effectively with my existing knowledge and experience. Would I recommend it to most small businesses? Probably not, unless they have really compelling strategic reasons to accept the complexity in exchange for future scalability. But what do you think after watching this video? For whom you think Salesforce made Starter Suite? Will it suit your business needs? Share your thoughts in the comments down below, and on this note, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, hit like to this video to spread the word, and see you next time. Peace.